Welcome to The Engaging Life, a podcast about using engagement equity to improve your relationship building skills in your personal and professional life. And now, here are your hosts, Brandon Suba and Angela Cheney.
Hello, Brandon.
Oh, Angela. Gosh, I enjoy recording with you.
Me as well. And it's a Friday morning.
Yeah.
We keep looking for a Friday afternoon to be fantastic. We could have a little beverage.
That's right. Oh, we need to do the after hours one.
We do.
That one, I think will be
Stay tuned. We want to get our spouses involved and some liquor involved and see what transpires. As far as a podcast.
Wow.
that could have gone off the rails.
That took a
kind of
very...
did go off the rails, but...
I used expose on the last one,
that's
so it's
true.
fine.
If you don't like our personalities at this point, yeah, you probably stopped watching a long time ago.
Wait, no, unless this is the first time you're tuning in, all the other ones don't sound like this at all.
No, they're extremely professional.
Just
extremely.
You ever seen Tony Robbins? Because I think we're right there.
Banana hands. Ever seen Shallow Hal?
But I don't remember that.
Get away from me, banana hands.
I just remember the guy from Seinfeld has a tail.
Yeah. That's a good show. They probably couldn't make that show at this point.
No.
In time.
Speaking of, so we're going through and watching old Disney movies.
Mm-hmm.
We have Disney Plus, and so we picked Peter Pan, the original Disney.
Oh, goodness. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Well, there is a disclaimer on it now because they refer to a few different groups by very inappropriate now terms.
Really?
Yes. And so that I don't want to get into. Just watch it because I'll butcher
like fairies?
Or I will. No. No, it's...
Because they're actually fairies.
I know, and that part's fine. No.
Okay.
You gotta watch it. But, and then the way Peter Pan treats Wendy, it's just...
Does he smack her?
No, he never hits her, but so they go and they meet mermaids, and the mermaids are obsessed with Peter, and so he's just flying around and everything. Wendy can barely get over on rocks, and then he goes and he pushes her a little bit. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Now I have to watch it.
Wonder males treated women so bad. This is what we were raised on.
I need to watch it now.
You will know, well, I think it says in the disclaimer, but you will know exactly what I'm referring to when I'm like, okay. It is an ethnic group that had a derogatory, and they just rolled with it.
Really?
And I don't know. They didn't edit it out. So it must just be the original is the original. But yeah, going back and watching old stuff definitely puts a few things in perspective on where we are. Sorry, that has nothing.
We like the asides. The asides are fun. You can fast forward if you need to. So, Brandon, today there's going to be a little bit of business involved in this one, but a lot of it is personal,
good.
as I like to do. And very psychology kind of based.
I like these.
So today I did this episode myself when it was just me doing my own podcast that myself and probably everybody listening to it got very bored with just my voice, and that's why I brought you in. But
no, we both did solo. We both did the solo thing, and we were like, you know what? We're not bad at this. What if we do it together?
It just brings so many more things to light, and it really does. So the title of that episode was Make the Chili, but I am updating it this time to Make the Cookies because I have a personal story that is cookie related.
Okay.
But the story that that launched this idea is something that I read on medium.com, and I am going to just read it to you. If you're watching YouTube, I do not have this memorized. I'm just going to read it. So this morning I was scrolling through Facebook as you do over breakfast. I don't eat breakfast.
I do eat breakfast.
Do you? Do you scroll through Facebook when you?
No, because I'm making breakfast for the whole family, plus lattes and teas and.
Okay.
I don't want to pay for anything in life, so I make it at home.
Okay. Brandon is cheap. Moving on. Back to the story. I was struck by a story that a friend had shared. The version summary is that a woman was running one day with her friend whose husband had recently passed. She was telling her friend that her husband wanted chili for dinner, but she didn't feel like going to the store. Maybe takeout instead. The friend stopped in her tracks and said, "Make the chili." I stopped right there before I had to compose myself at the table. Those are strong words. All too often we get wrapped up in what we have going on and get too busy to do the little things for the people we care about. We come home from the office at the end of the day too tired to take care of things around the house, play with the kids, or spend quality time with our significant others. Make the chili. Why is it so hard to set aside ourselves and do the little things for each other? I don't know about you, but when I take 5 minutes to play with the kids or sit and talk with my wife, I sleep better and I wake up feeling more refreshed. Sometimes I'd rather binge watch something on Netflix and shut down because it's easier to shut off. But the things that matter are still around us and they need our energy too. Make the chili. It's true that you reap what you sow. More than anything, your children are the legacy. Spend the time with them to shape them, mold them, teach them, listen to them, play with them. You'll be surprised what they have to say, and it's refreshing to hear their perspective. Make the chili. I used to give my dad a hard time when he needed help fixing something at the house. After all, he taught me a lot of what I know about fixing things and using tools. But one day I realized it's his way of having me come over to spend time with him. Time is the only thing we don't have more of. Make the chili. So that's the story. And so my story is make the cookies. So my husband loves chocolate chip cookies, homemade chocolate chip cookies. His mother used to make them for him all the time and does not anymore. She's still around, but she doesn't make
Okay, but she just, okay.
She just doesn't do it.
I'm glad you clarified.
And so when we got together, this was this big thing with him. These specific chocolate chip cookies. And I used to make chocolate chip cookies with my mom and all that. But, and so I'd make them. And it took a while for him to kind of say, these aren't how I want that. You know, he wanted his mother. And of course, being a new wife and, you know, you're trying to compete against their mother, there's so many triggers. And, you know, I'd be like, fuck you.
What? That didn't happen at all.
Yeah. So, and then I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to learn how to make these. It's important to him. And after a lot of trial and error, I finally actually got the recipe from his mother.
Oh my god!
You know, which is helpful. And actually started measuring because while I love to cook, I do not love to bake because it's very precise. Yeah. And I am not precise. And I mean, the way I bake too is just like, oh, a teaspoon of vanilla, that looks about right. And it's actually, I hearken back to the way my dad taught me to do laundry. And this is how he did the laundry. I think you're supposed to put a cup of this in, but I just go bloop. And to this day, when I have liquid, I mean, now I have like the pods, so you can't screw it up.
Yeah.
But I never measure anything.
That's awesome.
But once I got the recipe and actually started measuring, they turned out exactly like he liked them. Good. So, but because I don't really like to bake, and I get involved in other things, I forget, I don't do it. And recently, we're getting our kitchen done.
Oh, that's right.
So that was at least a month and a half where there was no baking involved whatsoever. And then when he asks me, I get mad. I don't know why. It's a trigger for me. And I think part of it is that, and I've tried to explain this to him, like I'm trying to figure out why I know I get irritated. I know I get mad. And then I doubly don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because when I make them, I want it to be a surprise.
Oh, sure.
And look what I did.
Yeah.
And when he asks, it becomes an expectation. So it completely changes things. Mm-hmm. And also, it's a pain in the ass. You know, it's like, and especially, and he always, and I know he doesn't do it on purpose. He always seems to ask me at the worst time.
Yeah.
And I'll be sitting there reading or doing something. Hey, how about those cookies? And I'll be like, oh my God. I have to get up and da. And there's always something you'd rather be doing.
Of course. Yep.
Or do nothing or all of the above. And so I relate this make the chili to make the cookies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how long we have together. You know, either of us something could happen to us at any time. Yeah. And I don't know, you know, how many times I'm going to be able to make the cookies for him. And while I don't understand why this is so important, you know, I'm sure there's some mother thing going, well, mom refused to make them for me anymore, and now I'm the mother replacement. Who knows? I don't really want to delve
that's where
deep into it. But to me, it's just like this is terrible. Number one, you always tell me you want to lose weight, so you don't need the damn cookies anyway. That comes into it. Number two, why don't you just I go to the store, so I have to pick up the cookies. And I will buy just store-bought cookies sometimes, and they'll suffice. But yeah, there's so many things that go through my head of, need the cookies, these cookies, why do I have to? But what it comes down to, and what I found, so we got into it's really funny because I'll give the whole scenario. So we're sitting there, and you can tell me as a man if you see I'm sitting there with him and his son, Austin, my stepson, who is 15, going to be 15, and not your normal 15-year-old boy. He's very intuitive.
Okay.
He's very, yeah. So I had just come home, and I had made one of his favorite dinners. Okay.
Austin's dinner.
Todd's.
Okay.
Austin likes it too, but had made one of his favorite dinners. Okay. So I'm feeling all good about myself.
Heck yeah.
And then they're watching football, which is not my favorite. And a lot of the times I'll go elsewhere and I know he likes it when I sit there with them, even if I'm doing something else. Mm-hmm. So not only did I make one of his favorite dinners, I am now sitting there when I don't really want to, watching football. I was reading, but I was there, right? So we're sitting there, and he looks at me and he says, "So when are those cookies going to be done?" And I was like, "No," he said, are those cookies almost done?" And I just looked up. I said, "Nope." And I went back to reading, and Austin is like, "Oh, good. I was just going to ask earlier if we could maybe make cookies. I'm glad you're doing it." And I was like, "Austin, I'm not."
Oh my gosh.
And then he's just like, "Oh," and he's like, "Dad, that was really mean of you." And Todd's like, "What? Why am I the jackass here?" And I was just like, "Thank you, Austin." Austin's like, "Well, you just tried to guilt her into it." Mm-hmm. And so then and then Austin was like, "Well, I'll make them." And Todd's like, "Yeah, you go make them." And then, of course, I'm like, "Oh, no, So it ended up being nice because Austin and I made the cookies together. Okay.
That is nice.
So that was nice, but I was still pissed off.
Of course. Did you aggressively bake then?
No, because I was with Austin. So it was a very nice. If Todd would have been in there with me,
yeah. See, I aggressly folded laundry the other day because got called out, and I was like, "Oh, I don't do enough. Watch this." Really showed her who's boss.
Yeah, and it probably made no impression on her whatsoever. It just not that you enjoy.
No, the laundry got done. Yeah. She was happy about that.
And part of me too, we were making it, and when I make cookies, I always give him a taste of the batter, Todd.
Oh,
that's like one of his favorite parts. And I was just fighting with myself. I'm like, you should do it. I don't want to do it. You should do it. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, no, do it. Make a good impression on Austin. So I went in there, and that diffused a lot of my anger. It's like I got over and I gave it to him. And of course, what I said is, "I hate you."
That's so funny.
And he's like, "Oh, take that back. Take that." I'm like, "Yes, I actually hate you, you dumbass." But the funny thing is, before this whole incident had happened, I was writing this episode. Really? So I had already made the decision that every time he asked me to make cookies, I was going to do it with a smile on my face.
Okay.
And then that happened.
And it did not go that way.
But I had already, made the decision to do the nice thing for him. And then the passive aggressive guilt trip thing.
All came with it.
So anyway, we actually had a nice talk after we diffused all of this.
Okay.
All of our talks start out horrible. You're like in the middle and you're like, "This is the worst thing ever. We're going to hate each other forever. And what did I marry?" And I'm sure he thinks that too. All of our discussions start out a little rocky. And then you get into it and it all gets resolved. But the first thing, oh no, it got worse.
Oh, it did?
It did. I was trying to explain to him all of this stuff. And then, okay, we're fine. Next day, we're sitting there. It might have been a couple days later. We're sitting there and I'm watching TV and I had already decided that's what it was. I got to rewind here. I had not started writing this episode before that incident. I had started writing it after.
Okay.
Because that triggered it.
Yep.
To change it. Okay. So now I'm decided, okay, every time he asks me, I'm going to say yes with a smile on my face. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't care if I'm on my deathbed. I have to do it every time because sometimes you have to. I'll talk about that afterwards.
Okay.
So I already decided this. It's feeling like a good wife. Look what I'm going to start doing. He didn't know it yet.
Of course.
But I'm like, oh, he's going to be so happy. This is going to change. Comes in, sits down. He's like, so I've decided I'm going to start making my own cookies.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, what the hell? First of all, you got to understand about Todd. He does not cook. He does not bake. He does not clean up in the kitchen.
I know how that goes.
He does not even barbecue. I do all of the food prep, all of it. And I'm not complaining because I'm kind of a control freak when it comes to food.
I am too.
So it's okay. But this is not someone who is in the kitchen a lot and is deciding to make some cookies.
Right.
This is a complete... And this is what I likened it to because I got mad. I was like, that would be like me coming in and saying, I've decided to start changing my own oil.
Yep, the car thing. Yeah.
You know, because he handles the car stuff and the outdoor stuff. And that's what it would be like. He'd be like, oh, I'm failing. Yeah. I'm not doing it well enough. I'm not doing it fast. All those things came to mind when he said he was going to start making the cookies. And of course, then we turn on a show and I'm just pissed the whole time. And it's going through my head, just let it go, let it go. If he wants to make his own cookies, he can make his own cookies. And I'm like, okay, if I let that go every time he goes into the kitchen. First of all, number one, he wasn't going to do it.
You don't think so?
I don't.
Not even so. Like
maybe once.
The crappy attempt?
Maybe once he would do it just to show me.
That he will make them.
But I don't think it would have lasted. So I'm like, number one is probably not going to happen anyway. And number two, if it does, every time he goes in there, I'm going to be pissed. Yeah. I know I am. I would love to say that I'm going to be the bigger person and be like, great, he's baking. Nope. And I was like, I got to address this. We got to address this because I don't want to be pissed off. You know, and then this is supposed to be something nice.
Right. This all boils down to something he loves.
Right.
And now it's turned into just headbutt.
Right. And so then we went through it, you know, and of course the awful conversation. And I'm trying to give the analogies and he's giving stupid analogies back. And he's like, because I gave the changing the oil analogy. He's like, no, this is what it would be like is when you ask me to take out the trash, if I go, ugh. And I'm like, the whole process of baking cookies, there's a lot that goes into it. You have to have all the ingredients on hand. And it's probably an hour process, you know, making them, watching them. Taking out the trash takes 5 seconds. Not the same. But anyway. And so finally, I was like, okay, well, maybe this whole I'm just going to say yes every time is it probably not going to work out all that well because I'm still going to get triggered when he asks.
Right.
I can't just remove the trigger. And I don't know if you know this about me, but everything I feel is all over my face all the time. I can't hide stuff.
I do know this.
You know, and that's why I like text sometimes because I can hide whatever's going on my face. And I can wait and then give a nice. But if you say it right to my face, it's going to.
Bam.
I'm a terrible liar. I am terrible about hiding my emotions. If I'm irritated, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
Every time. And so I was like, okay. I'm like, Todd, I have a compromise. I was like, I will make cookies once a week. If you eat all of that I make before the next week, you're out of luck. Sure. But I was like, I'm just going to make a part of my schedule. Then you never have to ask. And he's like, great. And that was, you know, now I'm just going to build it into my, he has not eaten the angry batch yet. So the next batch will be made with more love. He's eating angry cookies right now.
It tastes a little different this round. Yeah, I added more love to it this time.
No arsenic. But so I was just like, I need to remove the trigger. And the trigger is him asking me.
So this whole cookie thing, this is like the last few weeks. So when you say episode, you mean this episode, not when this
No, that's why I changed it to make this just happened. Just happened.
So
I believe we were watching Sunday Night Football when the initial incident happened. Okay. And then I'm going to make my own cookies, I think was Tuesday. Today is Friday. This is very recent.
So the angry batch. Well, I look forward to maybe having cookies sometime when you get 7 bags backed up if you're making them. Now you got to tune in.
Well, I know. Then he backed up. He's like, well, maybe I don't need them every week. I'm just like, oh, you're getting them.
Yeah, you're getting them every week.
Don't you buck the system here. Made a decision. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
The whole thing is at some point you have to realize things are important to other people. And that's one of the things I said to him during the argument. He insists it was not an argument. We have a very different...
We call them tiffs or discussions.
Discussions. He probably would say discussion. Yeah. I have a very low tolerance for conflict. It makes me very, very uncomfortable. I've gotten better at it, but in the past, conflict to me means end of relationship.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's they're devastating to me. I've gotten a lot. I know Todd's not going to leave because I didn't make his cookies, but it's still, conflict is still very tough for me.
Can I go totally off the rails?
Of course.
For 1 second. So She-Hulk is out.
Yes.
Really
Is
good.
it good?
It's really good.
Okay.
This last episode, and I don't think it'll ruin too much for anybody, but this guy's, his superpower is he's immortal. He can't die. So he comes because he has all these divorce against him, because what he would do is he would marry somebody, and the first time they had conflict, he would just kill himself. So they had a recording of him getting hit by the bus that got him out of that marriage.
Oh my gosh.
And when it went viral, his current wife was like, wait, that's you.
It's too
So while the lawyers are fighting about the whole thing, he just gets up and jumps out the window.
Oh
So
my
just the whole conflict thing,
Yeah.
like it was.
Oh,
it's
if I was
funny.
a superhero,
No,
I
She-Hulk,
would do that.
You know what? She-Hulk is really, the writing is really good.
I started to watch it. Have you ever had those nights where you're like, oh, I have some time to myself. I get to start a new show. And you go through like 5 minutes of 7 different ones and you can't get into
Yep.
any of them.
All the time.
I think that's what it was COVID. Both Todd and I had COVID.
Oh, yeah. You guys
He
had
was
plenty of
suffering worse than I was one day, so went to bed really early.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing okay that day. I'm just like, oh, I have 2 hours to myself. I can start binge watching a show. I went through 7 of them.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get, and that was one of them, but I didn't give it a chance.
Yeah, no, give it a chance. Give it a chance.
Okay.
It's good. It's
Okay,
good.
fantastic.
Sorry, total.
That's okay.
I mean, it was relative.
If that was my superpower, I would be doing it.
Which, yeah.
Yeah. You want me to make cookies and I jump out the window? Yeah.
Walk in front of a bus. Oh!
Yeah. That's because yeah. So moving past that, how can you give your loved ones what they want?
Yeah.
And
I like this topic because I think we sit a lot on, take care of yourself, put yourself first and
Mhm.
everything. This I was excited for because this is putting somebody else first.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
So sorry. But
And so one of the big things is paying attention to bids for attention. And if you've never read any of the marriage stuff by John Gottman, he's a psychologist, and he's the one who does the 4 horsemen of the marriage apocalypse, which is contempt, stonewalling, defensiveness, and I can't remember the 4th one.
I don't know. Those first 3,
But
know
he
real
was
well.
able to, this guy did years and years and years of research and was able to tell, he would film a couple and have them just talk about normal stuff. And he could tell, I think within 95%, he could tell if they were going to still be married in 5 years.
Holy smokes.
I just identified all the little stuff. And a lot of people who were watching, they're like, oh, this is a great couple. He's like, nope, going to be divorced.
I believe that.
He just knew these little things. So bids for attention is when your spouse is basically wanting you to turn towards them. So when Todd asked me to make cookies, that's a bid for attention.
Okay.
Or when, hey, I got a story to tell you. Or even, hey, look at the squirrel out there. Or anything like that. It's a bid for attention. You want a reaction.
Mm.
And so I think they gave a rule of if you respond to this percentage of bids for attention, you have a strong marriage. Obviously, you cannot respond to all of them.
And was that a higher number though?
Oh yeah, it was
Okay,
like
so
75. If you 75% you respond to
Okay.
a bid for attention, you can't always.
Right. No.
But start realizing, and that's not just spouse. That's your kids. Those are usually pretty obvious
So many bids.
what the bids for attention are. But as they get older, I think it gets more complicated. Sometimes it comes across as bitchiness, or I got teenage girls. So
Yeah.
I say that, but these are all bids for attention, and the more you turn towards them and respond to them, the stronger your relationship is going to be. So a lot of the bids for attention Todd is doing, that whole passive aggressive, are the cookies almost done? It was a bid for attention.
Yep.
I didn't turn towards it. I got pissed. But realize what your loved one's bids for attention are and respond to them.
So putting a name on it now, I'll clean the whole kitchen by myself. I don't care. Actually, I've talked about this before. If I can do something fast, I want to do it because I can do it better. I can do it faster. I don't have to teach you.
Right.
Liz is really good at when I sit down. She's still doing a project. I sit down and instantly, oh, hey, I need this and this, or can you do this and this? And now I see that is that bit of attention because she's still actively doing something and I'm done.
Mm.
And I'm not saying I understand what's in her brain, but how I always perceive it is, well, if I'm going to be working, you better get working. But it's probably more that bid for attention.
Yeah.
If you're just sitting there doing nothing and I'm working over here, well, I want the attention. And it even sometimes it's like, well, just come down to the basement while I'm doing this.
Right.
I never thought of it as a bid for attention, but I like putting that mark on it.
Yeah. And I do actually have the numbers here if I look at my notes.
Oh.
So the masters turn toward each other 86% of the time.
And that's a master relationship.
Yep. Wow. And then he referred to the disasters, which turn toward each other only 33% of the time.
Wow.
So I love that. And there's I don't know if it's the same author, but I read a book and it was like called The Sliding Door. You know, have you heard of The Sliding Doors? It's a movie with Gwyneth Paltrow, and it's like the subway doors, and it's 2 different ways her life could go, and it shows if she would have made the subway, her life went this way. If she would have missed the sliding door, her life would have went this way.
And awesome. I don't know it, but yeah.
It's an older movie, but he referred to these sliding door moments, and it was an example of he was reading a book. He and his wife were getting ready to go to bed, and he was reading the end of a mystery novel where they were going to reveal who the killer was. Okay, so he was in bed, almost to the end, looked up, saw his wife in the bathroom, and saw that she looked really, really sad.
Oh,
and that was a sliding door moment for him. He's like, I could have pretended like I didn't see it and gone back to my book because that's what I really wanted to do. Or I could put that aside and go address why she was sad. He chose the second one, and it was a sliding door moment that strengthened their marriage. Good. And again, you can't do it every time.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to choose the book. Sometimes you're going to miss the bid for attention or get mad. But if you can do it the majority of the time, you're going to have a strong relationship. So how can you make the cookies for other people in your life? This is technically a business show. So how can you make the cookies for your colleagues? So you work in an office. How can you give your colleagues what they want? So one of the things you can do is give them the resources they need when they're stuck.
Ooh, okay.
Because can be an irritating trigger too. If you've got an employee they continually drop the ball, or they're not finishing projects, or they're screwing things up, instead of getting on their asses, go to them and say, what resources do you not have that you need? Maybe it's more education. Maybe it's a program that you need to buy. Maybe they just don't have the tools that they need and they're afraid to ask.
Sure.
So, and this is employees or colleagues, either way.
Right.
You can do that. Make time if they need to talk. As a business owner, it can be very tough when you're running around trying to do everything. And this could be why they're not telling you the resources that they need, or they're not telling you that their mom just died and they're really in a bad place, or whatever it is. Make the time to talk. And if you're like me, it's a terrible coming up to me while I'm in the middle of something at work and trying to talk to me is terrible.
Right.
I know Dan, you listen to all these. He knows that he comes up and lingers by my desk. If I'm busy, I won't even look at him. And I know it's rude. I know it is. But, that's why sometimes I'll be like, can we go grab a beer together? Okay, now I know. We're making a time to talk. And then I'm all in. Mm-hmm. But make the time to talk. So if you're a business owner, maybe that's telling the staff that, hey, from 10 to 11 o'clock on Mondays, open door policy. I'm not going to be involved in a project. If anybody needs to come in and talk, please do that.
And what I've noticed in my recent career path, like the last, I don't know, we're going to say 4 years, the higher you move up, the harder it is to get the person you need to talk to. Mm-hmm. Because let's say you're up in a management role now, and your manager has to answer this question so you can take care of everything else. It's a lot harder to get a hold of that manager now because they're where they're at, and they have even more on their plate because with moving up the corporate ladder comes more responsibility. Absolutely. That is it. More problems. No, it's more problems. You just deal with more problems. And so I have found that I have to be more resourceful on my own. And at first, the confident salesman, I'm like, no problems. And then there's been a few things I'm like, gosh, I really wish you could have just given me that quick answer and I wouldn't be in this mess of a mess I'm in now. But that comes with it. So I do like the make time. I love the open door policy. Here's an hour. Mm-hmm. I've seen coaching hours is very part of success now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like your boss or your partner should set up a time and say, is it every other week? Is it once a week? How much do you need this based upon what you need? But let's take 30 minutes and it's us. Just you and me, us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, side note, don't leave big problems just for those moments.
Right.
Though. Like if it's a big problem, get it taken care of.
Right.
But it still opens that door. So I like that communication.
Yep. The next one, this is more for colleagues because I'll go into it afterwards why this can be problematic for an employer.
Okay.
But show up to things that are important to them. This is, and my husband and I have this argument a lot because I'm kind of on one side and he's way on the other. But it's like, it doesn't matter if you don't understand it. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you think it's stupid. It doesn't matter. If it's important to them, showing up to it, being a part of it is giving value. And, and there's been several times that I'm like, oh, XYZ's having this thing. I don't really want to go. Why should I have to be there? This is dumb. But when you go, just the look on their face and the gratitude and because you're being interested in something they're interested in, even if you have no interest in it.
Right.
Whatsoever. Showing up, being there, taking the time, it's super important. And that's can be colleagues. It's also friendships. If you're, friends into something completely different from you and they keep inviting you to something, I have no interest in that whatsoever.
You gotta go.
But you do it for the friend. You do it for the person, not for the experience.
You make those angry cookies
and you go. Yes, and you don't have to get it. You don't have to get it. So one of the Todd thinks greeting cards are the stupidest things on the planet.
I'm not far off with him.
And just thinks they're will not buy them. He'll get one. I mean, if the kids wrote something really sweet in it, he'll be moved by it, but they have to write a real personal note in it. And it has to be just right. But he'll be like, we went somewhere and he's like, well, we'll get a gift, but we're not getting a card because that's just stupid. And I was like, but I don't think the person getting it thinks it's stupid. And you're not getting it for yourself, dumbass.
Oh my gosh. I have such a good story on this. So when I got into mortgages, we were all locked down. So I really didn't meet my team. And as they were kind of opening it up, one of the ladies was pregnant. So she invited the whole team to her baby shower. Mm-hmm. And I kind of made the jokes of like, oh, but dude, going to a baby shower, whatever. And we have a box of children's cards. It's this cool fundraiser thing. I'm obsessed with it. But it's like $1.25 for card that a kid's going to read once and throw away.
Right.
So I totally grabbed one of those thinking it's a baby shower. Who cares? And so once we were back kind of seeing each other more often, I even made a joke to her. I'm like, so did you like my card I gave you? Because I think I crossed out birthday and put like birth or something, right? And she goes, oh, I keep all the cards. I do have that card. And I'm like, damn it. The one person.
That's fine.
So it is. You never know what the impact's going to be. You just stick with tradition and you can usually be in the right lane.
Yeah. I have a funny greeting card story too. So my dad, when he was alive, we kind of almost had a contest who could send each other the stupidest cards.
Ooh, I like that.
And he won. I mean, after this card, I didn't even try anymore because he like totally trumped me. I think it was birthday. It was either birthday. It was probably my birthday. Sent me a card that said, guess who's pregnant? And on the inside, he wrote, not me. Happy birthday.
I love that. So funny.
I kept that one.
See?
Guess who's pregnant? Not me. Happy birthday. It was fantastic. But anyway, do things, show up to things that are important to other people, even if you don't understand it and you think it's stupid.
Yep.
So how do you make the cookies for your customers and your clients?
Ooh,
all right.
Okay.
Big thing is give them the extra time when they need it. Maybe in your head you think a meeting should only last half an hour, or why should you have to talk to them 4 different times when most people get it on the first time? Or sometimes they just need a hand holding. I know you just spent a lot of like marketing. I know you just spent a lot of money on your website. Let me sit and tell you why that is a good investment. Whatever they need. And of course you're going to have your PITAs, your pain in the asses that will take advantage of this, but that's why you have your boundaries.
Okay.
You give them the extra time when they deserve it.
Right.
If they start violating, okay, that's something different. But some of your clients are going to need more time than others. Mm-hmm. And being upset about it and not giving it to them is not going to help anyone.
Right.
Let them be right. This is a big one.
I think I did an episode on the customer is always right. And I think at the end, I'm like, they're not always right, though.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that, you think your website should be done on Microsoft Paint or, okay, we'll do that.
Sure.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
But so let me give a good example. We are getting our kitchen redone right now. And Jesse, our contractor, is fantastic. And this morning, Todd said, because of course you have a contractor and things aren't going to always go to plan and you get irritated and right. All that has all happened.
Part of it. It's all part of it.
But this morning he's like, you know what I like best about Jesse? And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, every time we make a suggestion or say we don't like something, he immediately says, okay, and finds a way to fix it and change it. There's no defensiveness. There's no, well, I did that because of this, or you said you wanted that. There is none of that. And I have done a couple. I walked in and all the hardware, which I had chosen from a picture, but I had chosen them, right. were all installed. I walked in, I'm like, I hate them. I'm like, that like keeps the car, that looks cheap. I was like, I'm sorry. I know that this is not your fault. But, and he looked and he's like, you're right. He's like, we need to take these off of there because we couldn't have told from the picture.
Sure. Yep.
Nobody was in the wrong. He's like, you're right. And changed them. Or the other day I texted him and I was like, there's something just not quite right in there and I haven't been able to figure it out, but I finally did. It's those lights. They're too cold. I'm like, I know they're LED and I'm not asking you to change them. I just want to make sure that we can change them out later.
Oh, that's cool.
And he was like, you know what? They're adjustable. I'll pull them down and switch them over to the warm. Great.
Easy solution because you presented it.
Right. And also cool. He didn't be like, hey, she wanted the LED,
Right. Well, that's what you chose, ma'am.
Yeah. Or we had a side panel that's not there. And I was like, what's going to go here? He's like, no, that's how it's going to be. And I'm like, well, that doesn't look right. And he's like, I think once it all gets done, you'll see that it looks okay. Okay. Well, then everything got done. We're like, that doesn't look right.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to order some custom panels for that.
Bam.
Great. Yeah. Cool. So that's what I mean by now, if I said something ridiculous, you know what? I think I want to pull out the island and put an elephant in there. Then of course, there are boundaries.
I feel like it'd be like, you know what? You're right. Unfortunately, elephants are back ordered for 7 months. Yeah. Are you sure you want to wait?
And get this done. It'll add another $10,000 to the cost, but I'll get you that elephant. So I'll get it for you. So yeah, there's being right, and then there's being right. Listen to how they want to be communicated with and treated.
I've been working. That's big in my world right now. As I'm meeting a lot of new people, existing clients, and I actually use what we talk about here. My follow-up is I strive for the platinum rule, answer these 2 questions, and that will get me even further to that. And they're very simple. Type of communication, how often you want to hear from me.
Yep.
Boom, boom. And then I got to make my notes. And you want to know the selfish part of it? They take away half the work I think I have to do anyways. Because they're like, oh, as needed. I'm like, oh, that's the best answer. That's the one I like.
Yep. And I'll go back to Jesse, our contractor. He used to call me. I never answered the phone. So I don't like being on the phone. And he figured it out, and now he texts. Yep. And because I respond to that.
That's texting. That's the podcast world. That means.
I think I actually did answer a couple calls when he was in the house because I was worried that he had killed the cat or, something was on fire.
Was your first concern when he calls and that he killed your cat?
I thought it might be something pressing, but I believe what it was is, do you want a double pane window or a single pane window? Well, that could have been a text. But he said, the first thing he said was, you answered the phone.
He threw him off.
I don't think he thought I was going to. So figure out how they want to be communicated with. It doesn't matter what you want.
Right.
It matters what they want. And then the big one that we've kind of been putting through all this, you got to set limits to all of this. Because again, radiate outward. You can't always be responding to everyone else's bids for attention and doing what they want all the time because you're going to lose yourself. So how do you set limits? First of all, no, you can't always do things. Have your non-negotiables. So I have a couple of things. The cookies were the one after we decided I'm not going to say yes all the time because I'm going to be irritated. I'm just going to make them once a week. So we got a hot tub. This is a whole nother story that we do not have to go into. Why did we get a hot tub in the middle of a kitchen renovation?
That sounds like a great idea.
So getting into a hot tub is not without its pains in the ass you got to get into a swimsuit. For a girl, you got to put your hair up.
Okay.
What if it's cold out? What if there's,
Yep.
Yeah. And so we got it, and I started to realize every time Todd asked me, hey, we call it taking a schwitz, which I know I think a schwitz is Jewish for a massage. It's not even the same thing. But I said it the one time, and now we say it every time. We're like, hey, you want to take a schwitz? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm cold. Yeah. Oh, I'm crampy. Oh, I'm bloated. Oh, it's not quite nice enough out. And I was like, if this keeps going, I am never, ever, ever going to use this $10,000 hot tub that we have. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to say yes every time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. All those excuses don't matter. Every time he asks me, I am saying yes.
Yep.
And that has been the best decision because I use it. I get in there. Otherwise, it would always be something.
I do that with a lot of kids. I think parents need to take it. And the whole yes day, my kids are too creative for me to ever honestly give them a yes day because they will know exactly what they're doing. But there are like playing, because I like to clean the kitchen versus playing because I don't enjoy playing as much. But for every now and then I will say today is basically a yes day. Mm-hmm. Like if you request my time, it's yours. And the one time I did it, it was at a parish festival, a bunch of carnivals, a bunch of bounce houses and stuff. And it was just Isabel and I. I think Liz was either home with Charlotte or she was pregnant with Charlotte. I was like, I ain't doing this. And so I just had Isabel. And I looked at her and I said, okay, guess what? I'm going to say yes to everything today. And I did. Everything, because we had a wristband. Everything was free with the wristbands.
Right.
So I said yes to everything. Near the end of the night, they start deflating the bounce houses. And she goes, Dad, I'm going to go to that one. I was like, okay, but they're shutting it down, so you can't. Like, it's literally deflating. Right. I can't let you go to that one. She goes, you said no. And that's all that stuck out. So on the way home, I'm like, man, that was a lot of fun. She goes, yeah, until you said no at the end.
No.
And I'm like, all of it.
Your work.
But here's the deal. That was out of my control. That's fine. I just knew that I did everything I could to say yes and stick to it. And I think we get too wrapped up in our own stuff and our own busy. It's way too easy just to be like...
And you can talk yourself into or out of anything.
Yep. And I had a pop-up pool. This was years. This was at our old house even. And I had to clean it every time we used it. I had to prep it to be used.
Right.
So you betcha when the people are like, can we go swim? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Not like, I don't want it. No. You can go jumping if you want, but no. So I like your hot tub example. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you because it's not easy.
It's not.
It's not.
And it's important to him.
Yep.
Again, he's the one who wanted it. I do think there's some passive aggressive, hey, you got a kitchen, I need something. I think that's part of what went into the getting this hot tub at this time.
It's so expensive sometimes.
But anyway, it's important to him and he likes it when I go with him.
Yep.
And so, and I enjoy it. Of course, once you get in there.
It's great.
I mean, he's not asking to cut my foot off or something. It's an enjoyable experience. And you're always happy afterwards, you know, that you did it. It's kind of like going to the gym.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to talk yourself out of doing it, coming up with an excuse, not this time. And all of a sudden, not this time becomes not any time.
Yeah.
And you have a $10,000 piece of unused equipment on your deck.
Wet, rotting, moldy thing.
Uh-huh. So the moral of this story is...
Make the cookies.
Correct. Yes. Well, thank you everyone for listening and going along with our maybe not so businessy.
We had some banters today.
We had some good stuff going on.
We went through a lot of forces, a lot of trails.
That's right. So thank you for listening and or watching. We appreciate it. We also appreciate any reviews, good reviews.
I can't review.
And if you are watching YouTube, I just had a major contact snafu.
Oh,
if you saw the left eye kind of going nutty there.
Oh, I didn't.
I think it's okay now. And now I completely lost my train of thought. But thank you for listening. Whoopsie. and or watching.
Bye.
And we look forward to talking to you next time.